On the air from coast to coast, Mark Daniels, Artist Spotlight.
Good evening and welcome to Artist Spotlight. I'm your host, Mark Daniels. Well, tonight is a very, very special show. With over 80 plus Billboard hits, 27-time multi-platinum gold awards. He's worked in the music industry over 34 years. He's the program director for 10 radio stations across the United States. And he's worked with some of the biggest artists in the music industry, from Madonna, Jason Derulo, Pitbull, Enrique Iglesias, Mariah Carey, Ricky Martin, Michael Bublé, Gloria Estefan, and countless others. Of course, the man I'm talking about is the one and only Dan Mathews of Club Jumpers. Now tonight, you will have the rare opportunity to hear Dan Mathews' own words as he tells his story, his journey, and his experiences in the music industry. This is part 2 of a 3-part interview where we will continue to discuss Dan Mathews' journey in the music industry up to present day to become one of the top music producers in the country. So here's part 2 of my conversation with Dan Mathews on Artist Spotlight. Let's go ahead and give Dan Mathews a call, shall we? Well, good evening, Dan. It's Mark Daniels with Artist Spotlight. I'm doing great, Dan. I have to tell you, I received a lot of wonderful feedback from our conversation last week, and I'm excited to learn more about your musical journey. Dan, you shared with our listeners how you started out as a DJ and doing small events and shows within your city with the help of your dad, who also served as your manager. Once you graduated high school, you wound up doing your sets at the radio station in your city, which brought more attention to you. Now, once you and your family relocated to San Antonio, you had to start over in a new city. At this time, both you and your brother were now getting work as producers for various artists, and your reputation as producers was growing. Dan, can you share with me where the name Club Jumpers came from? Did you establish your name before the move, and how did you take your growth to the next level in a brand new city?
It was actually prior to the move, actually. I mean, I came up with the Club Jumpers, and actually it was spelled with a C back then when we started it. Mm-hmm. And I think you saw the vinyl, because there's a vinyl on it that says Club Jumpers with a C, but Sam changed it to a K. So, moving to San Antonio, I mean, like I said, our career just went to the next level. And believe it or not, when we first got here, the city was just so humongous. I was like, wow, okay, where do we go from here? Who do we talk to? What are we going to do, Sam? Like, because, everything was new to me. I didn't know the streets. I didn't know anybody here. Well, I take that back. I knew one artist here that she did the freestyle stuff. And she was the only friend that we had here. So I went to her home. Hey, Jeannie, blah, blah, blah. I met her mom. I met her family. So that was the only people that we knew here. So they started taking us around and introducing us to like DJs, and Sam and I started going to the clubs here, and we started meeting some of the DJs, and we told them who we were. And as I told you earlier, we already had records out. So these guys already knew who we were. And they were like, wow, it's an honor to meet you guys, because we were already producing a remix with Dre. We had did the Enrique Iglesias. We had done so much stuff before we got to San Antonio. So we already had a name. It wasn't as big yet. So we started getting invited to these clubs. I started going to the clubs. I started driving around. Actually, I was driving around. I said I never really drive, but I actually was driving around San Antonio to get to know the city. So I was driving around San Antonio. So was Sam. We started meeting a lot of these DJs, and we started hanging out with these DJs. They started bringing us artists to record in our studio. They were just honored just to be around us and do music with us. So, we started hanging out with a bunch of DJs from different clubs, and they started showing us around. around. They started introducing us to other people, other artists, other DJs. We started getting invited to a lot of bigger events. And then, believe it or not, I actually bumped into Roberta Ravala. She was working here. Remember I told you the story when I was in high school. So she saw me here and she's like, oh my gosh, Dan, what are you doing here? I'm just like, I live in San Antonio now. She's like, oh my gosh, we got to get together, this and that. And I told her, I said, hey, I want to get into the radio. And back then here in San Antonio, it was KTFM 102.7. And she said, yeah, let me see what I can do. But of course, people always say, let me see what I can do, but they never follow through sometimes. So I never saw her again. Sam and I were still, doing our thing. I was producing. We continued to keep on doing what we're doing. And I actually started college. I started my RN, my registered nurse. So I was going to college at the time.
Well, Dan, you bring up a good point here. A lot of independent artists, they struggle with the decision of whether they should give up completely with their music career and just focus on college, or should they not focus on college and instead go all in with their music career? Now, your parents instilled in you the thought that it's always good to have a backup plan in case things don't go the way you want to in regards to a sustainable career in the music industry. So you agreed to pursue your education as an RN. Can you tell me, how did things go as far as producing music once you were in college? What did that look like?
Well, I was at school in college. Sam was working in the studio. So then when I would get off school, I would go and help him out, fall asleep. And Sam, Sam was a beast back then. Mark, we laugh about it now, me and him, because like they say, man, the older you get, man, you can't hang anymore. And that's true, man. At 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I'm already falling asleep like an old man. And back in those days, I remember Sam, I would tell Sam, it was already like 2 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Sam, I'm going to go to sleep already. And he'll be like, tell me when you're going to go to sleep. And he'll be like, yeah, right now I'll be there, man. Don't worry about it. So I'll go upstairs to my room and fall asleep. And then I would get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I would still see Sam sitting in the same place in the studio. I would just be like, are you serious? Did you just wake up or what? And he's like, no, I've been awake. See, I've been awake all night. He would pull these all the time, Mark. He would always stay up almost 24 hours a day, which was a good thing in a way because as our career started taking off, the record companies, the labels started demanding a 24-hour turnaround. So they would say, hey, do you want to do a remix for Pussycat Dolls? But we need it tomorrow. Can you do a remix for Ricky Martin? We need it tomorrow. We need a remix for, trying to remember some names. Usually the big names, they wanted them like these done right away. So I guess Sam, he had no idea, but I guess he was training himself, to do that. So we laugh about that because, it's like I tell him, we can't even hang anymore, right? He's like, no, I can't. But we used to pull those hours. He used to pull those hours and really get the production done like the next day and have it delivered to them. That really put a mark on us because, the labels were happy with that. They're like, okay, these guys are the guys that we come to because, when we need something, they deliver it when we want it. So we started doing so much stuff. We started collaborating with other producers and we started working with Christina Milian, Nelly Furtado's, the Keshas.
Now, Dan, something that comes to my mind, and this stems from my conversations that I had with both yourself and your dad. Now, your dad was very much present as a guiding force when you were first starting out. Now, once the record labels saw that you and Sam were dependable producers, and they started to give you both more work, can you share with the listeners how your dad continued to share in the experience of producing music in the studio?
I don't know, I'm not sure if a lot of people know who Frankie J is, but if they look him up, Frankie J, really, really well-respected artist, really great, talented artist. Got to record him here and then writing the lyrics. And then I would be sitting there with my dad. My dad was always in the studio with us. My dad knew everybody. And he'll be sitting there. And Frankie J would actually say, again, all my close friends call me Danny. So my family calls me Danny. So Frankie J comes out of the vocal booth and he says, hey, Danny, how does that sound? So I tell Sam and George, the other guy, the other engineer that was here in the studio, can you play it again? So I'm hearing it and I tell Frankie J, you know what, Frankie, I really don't like the way that sounds. And he looks at me, he's like, what part you don't like? I go, that part that you're doing that and that, I think you should do it the other way, the way you were doing it. So he goes back into the vocal booth and he does it like the way I told him to do it. He comes back out and he hears it, and everybody agrees. Everybody says, yeah, that sounds good, man. That's it right there. That's the take. It's like even well-respected artists that are out there, they respect who Sam and I are as producers. They rely on our input. Because so many people, they ask me, Mark, oh man, how is it recording these guys? How is it recording, working with these big artists? When we're in the studio working with them, it's not even like starstruck, like, wow, I'm working with so-and-so and this and that. No, man, I have to put on my producer's hat on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sam has to put on his producer hat on. And because that's what they expect from us. They rely on us, on our input, basically. I'm not going to be like, oh, wow, man, I'm recording Madonna, man. Oh my gosh, can I have your autograph, Madonna? They don't want to hear that. They're going to walk out of the studio and be like, this guy's a fan. This guy's not even a producer. This is just a fan of mine. After the fact that we work with them, I'll be like, wow, I can't believe we did that record with Madonna. I can't believe we did that record with Michael Bublé. I can't believe we did those records with Jason Derulo. It's after that, you know what I mean? And my dad was the inspiration of everything, all the music. Because every time somebody would come here, he was always in the studio with us. Even if he wasn't in the studio after the session, he would always ask me, who was in the studio with you today? And I would say, oh, so-and-so is here. You know what I mean? We're working on a Ricky Martin record. We're working on a Juanes record because we also do Latin records. Oh, we're producing the Gloria Estefan record with so-and-so. And then he would tell me, can you play it for me? And then I would play it for him. And he would always say, you know what? I think it needs this. So my dad sometimes would even give us his input on the production side of it. He would say, that guitar shouldn't even go there. It doesn't even sound right. It sounds like it's off. So would correct stuff and then would say, okay, Dad, what do you think now? Oh yeah, that's it. He'll start dancing. If my dad danced to the track, we knew the track was going to be a hit. And it's so funny because it's like Marcos D1. I'm sure you heard of Marcos D1. He's like really famous in Mexico. He was at the Grammys this past year. Mm-hmm. He was with Lady Gaga and all of them. Like he actually started his career started here in the Club Jumper studio.
Oh, wow.
And he got to meet my dad. He would always tell me, call your dad. If your dad dances to it, then it's a hit. If your dad doesn't dance to it, then we know that it's not a hit. So I'll go and call my dad and say, hey, Dad, Marcos wants you in the studio. Mm-hmm. So here comes my dad, and we play the track. My dad's hearing it, and I see his face, his facial expression. I'm like, my dad's going to come out with some wise ass cracks here, man. He's going to make fun of this guy. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh man, where do I hide? Do I get out of the room or let him say his wise ass jokes? So he says, okay, yeah. He goes, it's okay, but it's missing this and it's missing that. And it's missing, this. It just doesn't have that kick. It just doesn't have that punch. It just doesn't grab you. So he's there telling Sam and the other engineer that's, also he plays guitars and all that, George. I think you remember George. Mm-hmm. So he starts signing them this and that. So they start moving all this stuff around, all of that. And then they play it again for my dad, and my dad starts dancing to it. And he says it's a hit. And those records actually did good. I mean, they're actually on our website, clubjumpers.com, Marcos D1. One of them's called Borracho, which means drunk in English. And then Toxica, which means toxic, talks about a toxic relationship. So those are in there. Those were big records in Mexico for this guy. And so those records became really big. And my dad was actually the one that told us what to do with them. So every time I hear a song, it reminds me of my dad. It's like, wow, what's my dad? But Mark, fast forward, because my dad passed away in 2023 on Memorial Weekend. And I remember talking prior, before he passed away, we're looking at plaques on my wall, all the awards. And I told him at the time, Dad, none of this means anything to me, Dad. I'd rather see you and Mom healthy than have all of this. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I never did this for the money. I never did it for the fame. I did it because I love music. And because my dad, growing up as a kid, he introduced me to all of that, to all the music and the vinyl. And I got to tell him, hey, Dad, at least you got to see Sam and I's career explode. You got to see our success. You got to see that we went platinum on all these records. We went Billboard. But I told him, but at the end of the day, Dad, all this stuff doesn't mean anything to me. I'd rather have you and Mom here. And he just looked at me and I told him that I wanted to retire. At that time, 2023, I had told him, we done everything. We work with Madonna. We work with Michael Bublé. We work with George Santana's. We work with the Juanes, with the Ricky Martins, the Britney Spears, and the list just goes on. And I told him that, I'm done. It's like, I should just retire already. And then it's like, we did everything that we wanted to do. I accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish. And he actually said, "You're still young, son. What do you mean you want to retire? You haven't even begun yet." And I said, "Yeah, Dad, but I really, look at, we're already successful. We already did what we wanted to do." And he's like, "No, you still have a lot. Don't give up your music. Keep going. You got to keep going."
Dan, I've spoken to many artists over the years, and they've shared with me how they've dealt with setbacks, disappointments, and heartbreak while they were on their own journey in the entertainment industry. Now, both you and Sam faced heartbreak when your dad passed away. What did you say to yourself when you were at a point where you wanted to step away from producing music?
When our dad passed away on Memorial Weekend, Mark, we weren't going to do music anymore. We were actually going to quit. But Mom was still here at the time. And she said it herself, "You guys can't quit. You guys got to keep on, continue the legacy for your dad." And we did. That's when you came along. We upgraded the studio. We started doing more stuff. We started recording with what we did the Offset. We did the Marcus Houston with Kodak Black. Remember that we just started doing a lot of big stuff again. It started coming all back. And then unfortunately, 2024, that year, after my dad passes away, we lose our mother. So, we get hit with another blow. And then in 2025, my brother loses his dog, one hit right after another. But Club Jumpers is still relevant today, and we're still going strong. We're going to continue the legacy, for our parents or for Mom and Dad.
Over the years, I've listened to you give advice to up-and-coming independent artists on how to deal with setbacks, trials, and challenges that are commonly found in the entertainment industry. Now, Dan, when you think back throughout your 34-year history as Club Jumpers, did you also have to deal with a lot of pushback yourself?
Yeah, of course, I guess everyone, when they're starting out in anything, they get pushed back. When I was starting out, I would call the labels, because back then, there was no social media. So obviously, you couldn't go online or text somebody. We didn't have that in the 90s. So I would call them up. "Hello, this is Warner Brothers." And I'll be like, "Oh, hi, how you doing? This is Dan, Danny, Daniel or whatever it was called back then, And I would tell them from Power 102, I'm a DJ. "Oh, okay, cool, man. What do you need from us?" They thought I was calling them for records because I was a DJ. And I would tell them, "That's great. I'm already getting your product through the radio station. Sam and I were doing music, so I was wondering if you can let us remix some of your artists." And the first thing they would say, "Well, what have you done? What's your resume? Send us a reel." A reel? I was like, a reel to reel? But they meant a reel because, CDs had just came out back then too. They wanted me to send them a CD of our stuff that we're doing, but we didn't have anything. I called so many people, so many labels, and it was just a no. "Well, send us a reel. Send us a reel. Let us know what you've done. What have you done?" I got so fed up with it, and I told Sam, like, "Man, nobody wants to give us any work. They're always saying, send us a reel, send us what you guys have done, And I would get so mad. I would tell my dad and then my mother, I would say, "How are we supposed to build a resume if these people don't even give me a chance to build a resume?" So I got on the call the next day again, and they said the same thing. "Well, send us a reel, to see what you guys done." And I said, "Well, really, we don't have anything because no one's gave us the chance to build our resume." And I said to the guy, I said to him, I go, "No disrespect," I said, "but someone must have gave you that position where you're at. Somebody gave you that opportunity. Somebody gave you that chance to be where you're at. That's all we're asking for, is someone to give us the opportunity to show them what we can do. If you don't like what we do for you, you don't have to use it." And he said, "You know what? I like you. I like what you just said." He goes, "Because you're right. Someone did help me get my position where I'm at today." And I said, "Yeah," I go, "Everybody needs help from someone." Like I said from the beginning, we always have to give credit to the people that have opened up those doors for us. And so many people always say, "Oh, me, I did everything myself." But there's no such thing as I did everything myself. Everybody needs help from someone. We all need someone to help us to the next level. I firmly believe that. So he gave us the opportunity, and I forgot what song it was. It's been so long. He opened up that door, this guy, for us, and we started building that resume. And I continue to use that phrase to everybody. "Hey, man, who gave you that opportunity to be the A&R for this label? I'm sure you didn't get it on your own. I'm sure somebody referred you. A friend of yours probably referred you, or someone must have helped you get to this position." So that's all I'm asking for, is for you to give me that opportunity, just like you got that opportunity from somebody to help you be that A&R for the label. And they started giving us work because it's so true, Mark. You know what I mean? It's like we need other people to help us out to get what we want to get. You're not going to get from A to Z by yourself. You're not. And again, I mean, like I said, we got the opportunities. We started working with so many great people with different studios. I started working with different people. Sam was always busy in the studios. I was DJing everywhere, flying from state to state, club to club, doing venues and all of that with Sam in Miami and all this stuff.
Once you started landing work for major artists, the money and the fame followed. And as you know, there's some people in the entertainment industry that let the fame and the fortune rule their life and their decisions. And in many cases, that winds up being their downfall. So Dan, how did you handle the so-called fame and fortune once you had achieved it?
Of course, the money eventually came. We made tons of money. And I used to say to Sam, don't do music just for the money, because once it becomes just a paycheck, then the love for the music, the passion that we have for this is gone. Because now you're not doing music because you love doing music. Now you're doing it because you just want the money. And of course, we all need to get paid. You know, I mean, of course, we all have our bills. We all have our needs. So of course, we got to get paid. But I used to tell Sam, don't get greedy, man. Oh, I'm not going to work with that person because he can't afford us. No, you can't be that way, Sam, because remember, we started with $50 projects. So sometimes, I would have to bring Sam back to reality. And Dad would always tell me too, hey, man, $100 is better than 50% of nothing. Hey, man, it's $500, that you didn't have right now. So why do you want to take that guy's $500? You just want the $5,000 ones, the $10,000 ones. You shouldn't be that way. And I would kind of remind myself and Sam, hey, you know what? We got into this because we love music. Sure, the money came along, but not because the money's bigger and greater. We shouldn't look down at the other people that don't have the big budgets, because we started doing music because we love it. And I used to tell Sam that when this becomes a paycheck, then you better just quit because you don't love it no more. And even today, Mark, I still remind them, when we get a project or whatever and he gets frustrated with it, I always tell him, I say, hey, Sam, just have fun. Just do what you love doing. And I guarantee you the ideas will just start flourishing and the passion for it will just start coming out. And he starts doing that because he'll tell me, oh, I'm having fun. And I hear the track and I'm like, man, that's a kick-ass track, man. And that's the bottom line of it, Mark. It's like me. I still DJ vinyl. I still do my sets. I don't have to do those sets on live anymore, but I do. Because at the end of the day, I'm having fun, man. I'm on the radio and I'm playing good music for the audience to hear and enjoy. I tell people nowadays, and I'm not trying to be arrogant or have an ego, I have nothing to prove anymore, Mark. I don't. I have nothing to prove. I'm just having fun now. And that's what I say to Sam. Just have fun. Have fun what we do now. We've been blessed. God blessed us with our talent, and God blessed us with our career. We work with so many great artists in the world, and even independent artists. We work with so many great, amazing independent artists. And I've always, people always came up to me, oh man, which artists do you think are the best? And this, and I treat every artist the same, whether it's Madonna, whether it's, a small independent artist, and they have the passion for the music. So that in itself says a lot, speaks for itself. So I'm going to treat every artist the same, whether they paid me $1 million or they paid me $50. I'm still going to give you that $1 million project regardless, because it's an honor that they're even asking to work with Sam and I, the Club Jumpers.
The other thing that I love about your story is that you're not just known for producing music and for performing live, but you're also known as a program director for not just one, but 10 radio stations across the United States. And what many don't realize is that being a program director is also a very time-consuming job. Dan, what motivated you to not just produce music and perform live, but then to make the move to become a program director?
Well, again, it goes back to my childhood when I was pretending to be a DJ, a radio DJ. I've always wanted to be on radio growing up as a kid, as a teenager. And believe it or not, Mark, I became the youngest program director on radio. I was only 20, I think I was 22 years old. I was the youngest 22-year-old. I don't know about now. I'm sure there's probably program directors that age, but at the time, everybody's like, wow, you're only 22 years old and you're already running a station. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing it. To me, it was just like, I've always knew how to work the crowd. I always said, people want to hear on the radio. They don't want to, and even as a mix show DJ, and as a programmer, as you said, I run 10 radio stations across America in different markets. So I never tell the DJs what to play as a DJ. I always tell them, you do what you do best. I'm not going to tell you. I just tell them, of course, don't play any cuss words, anything inappropriate over the air. But to me, I always said, because I used to talk to the programmer before I was a programmer. When I was just a DJ, I would tell them, why don't you play this record? This is a hit right here. Oh, no, man. That's not going to work. That's good for mix show. How do you know it's not going to work for regular rotation? And I remember giving them records. You should play this one. I guarantee people are going to start calling for that. And they would spike it in. And people, sure enough, Mark, people would start calling in. Hey, man, what was that record that you just played? Whether it was a Stevie B record or it was a Pump Up the Jam. Remember Pump Up the Volume. There you go. Pump Up the Volume. Yeah, Pump Up the Jam was another one. Electronic. Yep. Records like that I was bringing to these guys, and they were scared to play these records because, back then it was a more conservative type of style record. It was more R&B back then. Remember, it was more like Color Me Bad and all these other records, KLC. Not to take anything away from these great artists, but it was like, that's what they were used to in that format. But I would say, why don't you throw this record in here, man? That's just a mix show record. You should just play that on your mix shows. No, man, that record should be on rotation, man. I guarantee you, man, that record will be a hit. So when I got asked to program a station, I said, you know what? I'm gonna make it my way. Of course, I kept all the you follow that list that they give you all the time. Yeah, of course, I followed the top 10 best mainstream records, whatever it is. But on the other hand, I was spiking these independent unknown artists and just, it would be like, wow. Or I would play a Depeche Mode record. I would play a Depeche Mode record on regular rotation. I would play a New Order record or Erasure. I would just randomly just throw these records, and it was getting the audience attention. And that's what I do now. I don't do it too much because now it's more strict what you really play on rotation. But that's why I keep my mix shows on the weekends and during the week. That's why I have a morning wake up mix, or I have the noontime workout mix, or the lunch hour mix, or the 5 o'clock traffic jam during the week. So that way the audience stays locked in. They're like, you know what? I don't want to just hear the same song 100 times every day. But I know this station here, or one of these stations, is going to play a mix, and it's going to have a mixture of different music that I heard that you never really hear. So that's the reason I do it, like on my mix shows. Mark, and I love programming. Like I said, I love that side of it because I still get to be creative in a sense in the way I program each station. But people have told me this, and I don't know if you probably heard this about the station that we both work together, Wild in Detroit. People tell me this all the time, man. Your stations are not even, I don't want to say names, but they're like, you're not even that big corporate company. But man, the way your DJs and your staff and everybody's promoting these stations, oh my gosh, we see you guys everywhere on social media. They tell me that. We see The Shore everywhere. We see Wild everywhere. We see Rhythm everywhere. We see all your stations are all over social media. We never see these other stations on social media, but man, we see you guys everywhere. Everyone knows who you guys are. And it's again because of the DJs. I have to give all credit to the DJs, Mark. They're the guys that are promoting this 24 hours a day for us. These are the guys that are doing all this for us. And I think a lot of stations don't have mix shows anymore.
No.
And that's one thing that I tell my DJs, I mean, do what you got to do best, man. I mean, and they do. I mean, and that's the side that I love about programming.
It's also another way of paying it forward. Because with your mix shows, it gives a lot of independent artists opportunities to be heard. You know, a lot of these artists have an amazing talent. And, you know, Dan, they started off just like you did. They did not have a large budget to work with. They had to invest in themselves or get help from friends and family just to save up enough money to produce one track. But then, they don't have the thousands and thousands of dollars to pay radio consultants to get their songs into rotation to be heard on all of the stations across the country. Now, what I love about what you've done is that you now have all of these stations all across the country that have these mix shows and give these independent artists an opportunity to be heard in prime time in many states across America on the morning show mix, the afternoon, and the 5 o'clock drive, not to mention the weekend mix shows. You're creating an opportunity for these independent artists to be seen and heard. You found another way to adapt and create opportunities for independence in an industry that sadly has become so commercial. When I think back to when I was in radio here in Detroit, and I also was working at radio stations across the country, I remember the main reason I originally got into radio was that I myself wanted to give independent artists a chance on the radio. You see, back in the 80s and the 90s, one of my early inspirations in radio here in Detroit was a radio DJ who was similar to yourself, and he called himself the Electrifying Mojo. And he would play music and artists that you would not normally hear on the radio. He would mix urban music, rock, funkadelic, techno, and songs that you would not normally hear in rotation. And what people may not know is that he was a big advocate of Prince when Prince was first starting out. And he would play a lot of music by Prince that no other radio station would play. What's interesting is that Prince lived in Minneapolis, but he heard about how supportive the Electrifying Mojo was to independent artists, so Prince would send Mojo his new unreleased music to play on his show to get a reaction from the audience. Prince was so supportive of the Electrifying Mojo that in 1986, when Prince came to Detroit to do a birthday concert, he called Mojo and did a rare phone interview with him. You see, Prince knew what Mojo did was not just for himself, but also for artists of different genres of music, and he gave these artists and the music a platform on radio to be heard where otherwise they would not have been. Now fast forward to today. The majority of radio stations across the country have a cookie-cutter format, and they play the same songs over and over. And they've taken away the mix shows and made it very difficult for new artists and new music to be heard. Unless, of course, the artist has a big budget to pay the radio consultants in order for their song to be heard across the country. The biggest heartbreak for me is that there are so many talented artists who will never be heard. So in a way, what you're doing is something that used to be done but no longer is. And by today's standards, you are doing something many consider to be groundbreaking. And as I said earlier, the hours that you put in just as a program director alone are very, very long. And yes, you shared a moment ago that producing and performing music for you is fun. But Dan, I have to ask you, what drives you then to put in those long hours as a program director? Is it also your passion for new music and artists, and also your passion to create opportunities for others?
It's a combination of both, like you're saying. I mean, it's the passion and also, giving, the independent artists and the artist itself, the labels, the opportunity to play their music on radio, because it's so hard to even get some of these independents on radio nowadays. So, again, it just falls back to my youth. Growing up with my dad, the love of music, we've always loved music in my household. I mean, all of us always being a big family. I mean, we always had our own parties and I was blasting the music, and I was always the DJ, of course. I was always the DJ for all these parties where, when the holidays would come around, whether it was Thanksgiving, there's Dan DJing, Christmas, especially New Year's Eve. So I was the DJ, even though I never volunteered, but everybody volunteered me all the time, You're going to DJ dance. And, I had my sisters go through all my records, and I would tell them, go pick out whatever you want. So they would have all this 80s stuff, New Order, Erasure, like we were talking about, Dead or Alive, Duran Duran, just all this incredible music. So I would just do a set of that. And then my dad would always chime in and say, why don't you play some of the disco stuff? So there was my dad there dancing with my sisters, the disco stuff, and teaching them, oh, look at me and your mom, you should dance this. So, to your point, to your question, I mean, I continue to do this, just because I love the music. I want to continue my dad and my mother's legacy because they always said, don't give up what you love doing. Even the passing of my dad was very hard for me. And like I said, I wanted to give up. Sam and I just wanted to say, we don't really need to do this anymore. We're done. But our mother was still here, and she kind of motivated us and said, you should continue to do what you love. And she would see that I was still getting boxes and boxes of records. And I would tell her, you know why I buy all these records, right? And she's like, yes, because you want to keep your dad's legacy. It reminds you of your dad. And I said, yeah, exactly. It does, Mom. And unfortunately, I lost both my parents. And it's been a tough road not having them here because, again, they were my inspiration. When I would work with somebody or when I was on the phone, Dad, would always, who are you talking to? Who was that? And who are you working with next? If he didn't remember who the artist was, I would go to YouTube in his room and look it up and say, this is the artist that I was talking to. And he's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. They want a song from you? And I said, yeah, they want to work with, Sam and I. So he would get excited, and one of his favorite bands was that we had the opportunity to work with. But unfortunately, he already had passed. And you remember we worked with Village People.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got to work with Village People back in 2024, which became a hit. It was a Billboard hit on the Hot AC chart. Well, the AC chart, not even the Hot AC. It was the actual top 40 AC chart. I think it was at number 20. I think it was at 28 on the chart. Mm-hmm. And that was our version that went to Billboard. So I remember sitting in my mother's room and I was telling her, man, it would have been so awesome, if Dad would have still been here and he would have known that Sam and I worked with Village People. It's just different now. You know what I mean, Mark? I still have the passion for it. Sam still has the passion, but the feeling of not having the two people that inspired you, raised you, guided you, they're not there anymore to share your success with them anymore. Like, hey, look we're working with so-and-so, I'm working with Full Force now. I'm working with this and that, and we're doing this and we're continuing. I don't have that anymore. I don't have that privilege. It's like an emptiness. It's like piece of the puzzle's missing now. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to quit or anything. I mean, like I said, I have a passion for the radio. I love doing radio. I love hearing the DJs, their mix shows. I love doing all of that. I'm going to continue it. Sam's going to continue it. But there's just a void there, that we can't just say, hey, Dad, check it out. Check out this next award. Check out the Wall of Fame. It's I know in spirit that they're there and they're always going to be there. I read an article the other day and it said to me, it resonated with me very well. And I had tears in my eyes, and I'm not ashamed to say that I had brought tears to my eyes. It said, your mother and your dad will always be part of you because you have each of their blood in you. So that is true. I came from my dad. I came from my mom. My mom had me. So obviously I was in my mom's belly 9 months. So I lived inside her body. So I have a lot of her DNA. I got my dad's DNA, so I do have part of them. I am them. You know what I mean? They made me. I mean, they created me. So you know what I mean? It just, you know, I just got to continue. I mean, Mark, it's just a thing that I love doing. I'll continue to buy records until I can't buy, until they don't fit in my house, right? Then I'll have to start sending them to you. You can store them over there. But I would always continue. The passion is always going to be there. I'm always going to be, I make everybody laugh because I always use this phrase that Jennifer Lopez used in her song, Jenny from the Block. Mm-hmm. So I always tell people I'm still Danny from the Block.
Yeah.
I've never changed who I am, no matter how famous we got, no matter how much money we made, no matter how big the house is, no matter the biggest, you know, the most expensive car we have. I've always been myself, and that's what always resonated with so many people. And so a lot of my friends back home that have visited me, they always tell me, you're still the same guy, man. You're still the same Danny that we met when you were a teenager. You never changed, man. You never let your success, fame get to you. Like so many people out there, they forget where they came from. And my dad, that was one thing that my dad always taught me. Never forget where you came from, son. Remember that. Never forget, because just like you rised up, you can also go back down. So he said, never forget where you came from. Never look down at anybody, because we're all the same. At the end of the day, we're all going to the same place. Yeah, and we ain't taking anything with us.
What I'd like to do now is play a set of 4 songs remixed by Club Jumpers, right here on Artist Spotlight.
Baby.
As the cool winds blow, when I hear her stream lovely ladies I know, I'm still a lonely man. You know, it's funny. I thought I had her in the palm of my hand.
Have you seen her?
Where she go? Where she at?
Have you seen her? Have you seen her?
Have you seen her?
Club jumpers.
To start the party's what I came to do. I don't care with who, so how about you? Give up your worries and I'll dance the moon till the sun comes through with the morning view. Now the heat is on, because the beat is on. Now our feet are gone. Hey, 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 hey. Now the heat is on, because the beat is on. Now our feet are gone. Había una chinita sentada en un café con sus dos zapatos blancos y las medias al revés. Hey everybody, everybody's got a rhythm that'll make you wanna move it like they do in South Beach. You gotta watch the women when you see their bodies spinning with a face.
That was Enrique Iglesias singing No Me Digas Que No. And before that, Gloria Estefan singing her dance hit Wepa. And before that, you heard Full Force singing Have You Seen Her? And the song that started off our Club Jumper set, Nico Rocks singing Ballet. Now, Dan, where can people go to find your social media links and your music?
Well, we do have I got my own Instagram. It's Dan Mathews _ Club Jumpers. Sam has his own also, Sam Michaels. I think it's under Sam Michaels and Club Jumpers as well. We have our own official Club Jumpers Instagram. We have our Spotify Club Jumpers. I mean, you can Google us. I mean, you can Google Club Jumpers with a K, Kloud, Jumpers. And everything will come out on us, on Club Jumpers. I mean, we're on Discogs also. I mean, all our discography's in there, everything that we produce over the years. You can also go to YouTube and type out Club Jumpers and all our music will pop up. Of course, all the radio stations that they want to, hear me on Saturdays, I'm on Rhythm 105.9 every Saturdays at 5 Pacific time.
Dan Mathews, I want to take a moment and thank you for this rare opportunity to share your story and your journey with me. On Artist Spotlight, I strive to give our listeners not just career highlights from the artists that I interview, but to also give listeners something that they can use as a takeaway or inspiration to apply to their own journey in the entertainment industry or anything that they set out to achieve in life. So thank you so much, Dan, for being an inspiration to so many over the years. As a producer, live performer, program director, mentor to so many. And thank you for having this conversation with me here on Artist Spotlight.
It's been a pleasure, Mark. Thank you for having me on your show.
You've been listening to Artist Spotlight, and I'm your host, Mark Daniels. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Dan Mathews of Club Jumpers. And don't forget, you can learn more about Dan Mathews and Club Jumpers by going to Dan's Instagram page, Dan Mathews _ Club Jumpers. Or you can go to their website, clubjumpers.com. Now tune in next week for a very, very special show. I'll be speaking with up-and-coming music artist Ella Quinn. Ella has performed at the House of Blues in Anaheim and many, many other amazing venues. We'll be discussing her musical journey and we'll be debuting her latest pop rock single release titled Iconic, which was co-written with Grammy Award-winning producer John Inglesby. So tune in next week for my conversation with Ella Quinn, right here on Artist Spotlight.
On the air from coast to coast, Mark Daniels, Artist Spotlight.